Good evening. You on there? No? Okay. Good evening. My name is, okay. My name is Art Sprue. I'm Chair of the Planning Board. This is the Town of Chatham Planning Board Hybrid Meeting, December 22nd, 2025, and it's 5 p.m. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly thereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of AI note-taking apps, please notify the chair. I don't see anybody. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027. This meeting of the Chatham Planning Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 893-067-226#, or join the meeting via online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a recording of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. And again, I don't see anybody who is recording, so we'll start by a roll call. Warren?
I'm present.
Bob?
Present.
Charlene?
Present.
Bob?
Present.
Catherine?
Present.
And Art Sprue present, and Frank Shear is absent tonight. Are there anybody who has to recuse himself for tonight's agenda?
Mr. Chairman, on the 87888 Main Street, I just want people to know that I have worked on that project, but there is no monetary value whatsoever since I've worked there.
Okay. Thank you. All right, let's begin with the minutes from December 8th, 2025. Do I have any comments, edits? Charlene?
Yes, on the site plan approval, page 1 for 470 Main Street, the motion was actually made by myself, not Bob Dubitz, because he wasn't there. And there were also 2 conditions. So it should be at the end of that with conditions, that sentence. And then on the next page, at the top of the page, for 71 Crowell Road, the motion was made by myself, and it was actually seconded by Mr. Shearer.
Okay. Any other comments, edits? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from December 8th, 2025?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of December 8, 2025 meeting minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Warren?
Approve.
Bob?
Approve.
Charlene?
Approve.
Bob?
Approve.
Catherine?
Approve.
And Art Sprue, I approve. All right, site plan approval, amended change of use. It's 878, 880 Main Street. If you could introduce yourself and walk us through your application.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Bevan, and I am here about the hair salon at 878 Main Street again. So basically, I am now trying to go into the front space instead of the middle space. It is a little bit larger, so I am excited about that, have a little more space. But as far as everything else, it's pretty much the same thing. It's 4 people working there. The parking now isn't an issue at all because I have a lot of parking. And I also still have the extra parking in case, from the other letter. And I don't think there's any issues with any other owners as well, so.
Okay, there's two interdepartmental comments. One is the Water Department, DPW. Applicant applied for a change of flow. And the Board of Health is, the site is connected to municipal sewer flow allocated, not adequate for a hair salon. So additional sewer flow will be required for approval by the Water and Sewer Division. So those things still apply, I imagine, because that
Yes,
didn't move forward on.
I think the water flow is already, done.
Okay. All right, do board members have any comments or questions they'd like to ask the applicant? Bob?
How many chairs were there?
4 chairs,
There was 4 chairs originally there?
yes.
Why is there more water flow?
I'm not sure.
I'm just
Yeah, it's
asking
the
the
same
question.
amount, yeah, I guess it would be the same as the other space, because it's the same amount of chairs, so.
Bob, I think that this has to do with, from the previous use, not, which was, I think, office space in this location.
Okay, okay. I am for this,
Okay.
just so you know. I just was
So
asking the question
I think I
'cause
should
didn't
probably
know.
just clarify for the record. So this applicant came before you before, she was going to lease a different space within this complex. Now she's coming back at another space. There has been a change in ownership. Many of the things that were brought up during that previous thing still apply. The owner of the property now, he has been notified that he will have to come forward with a change of use application for that other
Unit,
use,
unit.
the office use, to come into the smaller space. And then Caitlin has come in with her application for the bigger space. I would suggest that as part of your review tonight, I would just say to make sure that they follow up with DPW and that all of the proper water and sewer flows and all of that have actually been met. I know applications were, put forward before, but I don't know where they turned out because we never went through with,
I was just
with
asking
the
if there was
lease.
4 chairs before and there was 4 chairs now. That's kind
but
of
no,
odd to.
the salon never opened with the 4 chairs. She never was able
Never.
to reach an agreement with the owner of the property, of the unit. So
Oh,
that,
I'm
so it never opened there.
Never opened.
It was,
I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Now I understand why the water use is.
Okay.
Well, personally, I'm in favor of it. How's
thank
that?
you.
I think the other thing that's important is when we were making the assessment here and we were dealing a lot with these parking spaces, the same thing would need to apply in here. We're dealing with parking for all the units together, and the way we resolved it previously is the same way we will resolve it with this one. Is that still the same expectation on your part?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. So that would be, whatever we had identified as the condition before, we would just continue it here with the new unit address. Are there any other comments or questions? Catherine, any?
Mr.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the only thought I had on this, so the other unit, 880 Main Street, where you're not moving in, we already did a site plan review for that site, and we approved a change of use for that unit for a hair salon. So this is partly a question, partly a concern. We need to make sure that that change of use is reversed in some way so that we don't duplicate all the parking that's required in terms of the use that has been assigned to these 2 units, because we already reviewed this with regard to the other unit. So my question is, does our decision regarding the change of use for the other unit stand? And if it stands, we somehow need to make sure that that's changed again. Otherwise, we have this issue where, you know, technically speaking, we have to sort of duplicate everything, which of course we don't need to do, but do you see my question for Christine or
I take-
Art or?
Yeah, I take your
Yeah.
point.
So we can
Yeah.
have, I can have Kate submit to me an email just indicating that she is withdrawing that previous application. Because
And would that
she
be
never went
sufficient
into
then
that
to-
use. She was the previous applicant. So with this new application,
Right.
she's changing. I have also informed the new owner that he needs to bring forward a new application for that other space.
I think this makes sense.
So in that sense,
Because
Yeah.
both units, let's just say we approve it, and we were silent about the withdrawal on the other one. Well, you can open up another salon there and double your size. I don't think that's your intent here, right, Craig?
exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think that would, what Christine is suggesting is withdraw the application for the other unit,
Okay.
and it's applied here. Okay.
Okay, as long as that, as long as that satisfies the need.
Maybe you want to
to-
state that for the record tonight, that you are withdrawing.
Yes, I am withdrawing that. It's 880 Main Street.
Okay. All right. Let's see, with that, if there's no other comments or questions, if the board is inclined to approve the site plan approval for.
Just one
Oh,
comment,
Warren,
just
yes.
for my edification, I don't actually recall what the prior use that was approved to be changed to the other unit for your hair salon. Presumably, that is the use that would then become officially the one on record. What was it previously?
So it was vacant at the time when she
No,
brought the
but it was-
application forward for
record,
8.
it was approved as a use. What was the use previously that would now become the
retail.
use?
It was vacant when it came forward.
But it was
Prior
retail?
to that, it was retail. There was nobody in there. at the
Just
time,
retail.
3 years, but before that, it was retail.
Okay,
And then it sold.
so it would revert to that once her application is officially withdrawn, as it has been verbally. It would be approved for retail.
Can we just make the criteria?
It's vacant right now, so it's not, it's unless another exactly the same retail establishment
there's
came
some-
in. And I know I have received information from the owner, like I said, that the office use, which is like an office front, basically, is going to apply, to move into that space. So we won't be going to retail.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
But may I just I mean, the way I understand the use is that if a use is assigned to a space, whether it's vacant or not, that's the use that's assigned. And if someone moves in there who's not retail, I would understand, even though it's been vacant, that's the use that's been assigned by, previous planning board or whatever. And that they would need to go in for a change of use if it was something other than retail, even though it's been vacant for some time. Just because it's vacant, I understand the change of use doesn't dissolve. I mean, the use that's assigned doesn't dissolve. Am I correct in that?
Well, I think you're right, and I think Warren was right in pointing out that it should revert back to the previous use, which was retail.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
point.
No?
yeah.
And that's fine.
I'd agree with
I'm
that.
very much in favor of this. I'm just would like it to not be a problem going forward because somebody moves in as an office and it's not approved for that.
All right, Charlene?
So if a building or a unit has been vacant for more than 2 years, it actually loses the protection that it may have had.
Ah, okay.
Or, not necessarily protection, but
Yep.
anything that's going to go back into 880 Unit A would require coming back to the planning board and the building commissioner for a change of use.
Okay, that makes it very clear. Thank you.
Okay,
No other comments, thank you.
all right. All right, so let's see if the board is inclined to approve site plan approval for 878 Main Street. Do I have a motion?
I'll try.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the site plan approval amended change of use with conditions for the proposed hair salon for 780 Main Street, Unit B,
878?
878, is that what I said? 878 Main Street, Unit B, as it meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the protective zoning bylaw. The conditions as outlined in the staff report, items 1 and 2, shall be the conditions, along with an understanding, a third condition, that the unit at 880A shall require a change of use if a new use is going to go into that unit. And I have a fourth condition, that the parking that had been approved off-site for the salon use shall continue with this new location if it's deemed necessary.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Warren?
Approve.
Bob?
Approve.
Charlene?
Approve.
Bob?
Approve.
Catherine?
Approve.
And Art Spru, I approve.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Next is site plan approval, amended change of use for 72 Crowell Road. Do I have an applicant here?
71 Coral Road.
Yep. Yeah. So if you could introduce yourself and walk us through where we are?
Sure. For the record, Jamie Norcross representing Pond d'Avignon. With me this evening in the back is Mario Mariani, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Pond d'Avignon. Just to start, we appreciate the board's patience. I know we've been a continued item on your agenda for a while now. Mario has been working through some different concepts, all of which took a little bit longer than anticipated. Just some overview for you. Pond d'Avignon began leasing the property in the spring of 2024. They have had a restaurant in Hyannis for a number of years, almost 20 years. They wanted to bring that concept down to Chatham. Since opening, Pond d'Avignon has heard from many customers about the need for additional table seating at the restaurant, as well as the ability to eat outside during the warmer months. There's also a financial component for my client. It's determined that in order to compete with the many restaurants in town, it really needs additional table seating. Pond d'Avignon is open year-round, and additional table seating is important to the company in order to generate sufficient revenue. So the goal for the proposal is to allow for this additional seating while also establishing a more organized site with increased on-site parking. There's also some site improvements, curb stops or wheel stops, relocation of the dumpster to what we think is a more appropriate location behind the building, less of an eyesore as seen from the street. And so the proposal, we included a summary of the proposal as part of the submittal that we sent in last week. And so we would be asking to add 4 dedicated employee spots behind the building, which would leave 9 dedicated parking spots for use by customers, which would provide for the 36 table seats that we're asking for pursuant to the bylaw. This was, or has been, a food establishment for many years. Many of you probably remember the bakery was there for a number of years. It was very, very busy, very, very popular. You'd often see people lined up to Collins Drive. People would park over at the funeral home, and that's just sort of the way it was. I think a benefit of this is it formalizes the site quite a bit more than its previous iteration. So we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, let me just review some things in Christine's comment letter. The first thing is the previous site approval on this dates back to 2003, and that was included in the packet. That indicates 6 parking spaces there. So the existing plan that was shown is not an approved site. So I just want to, that's where we start from. not from the 9 that were there adding more. So the other thing that I think is important to note is some of the comments that Christine has put together associated with bylaw concerns. The setbacks, both from the road and from the butters, would have to be addressed. Buffer zones would have to be addressed. The, parking size and access off of Collins Road would be a concern, since vehicles would be backing out. The number of tables, I think, would be a concern. There was a comment that were written in wrote in the letter there about the number of tables that were outside. When I was there last week, Wednesday, there were 10 tables with 48 chairs outside. So I don't know what the establishment is proposing to do during the off-seasons and that, but there's been a variety of changes that have been altered on this site so far without any formal site plan approval. So I think we have to start with the basic site plan that has previously improved is in the packet that shows just 6 parking spaces. So there's a significant change from what was previously approved to what is being asked for now. There were some comment letters that were submitted by the building commissioner. I'll read his. I'll review the planning board's request for comment regarding the applicant's proposal to increase the number of seats with tables serviced both inside and outside the building, fluctuating seasonally. The interior occupant load and seat count are unrelated. Seat count is determined by the Board of Health and the Water and Sewer Department. Occupant load is determined by the contractor or his registered professional at the time the building permit is applied for based on code requirements. My role in the permit review process is limited to verifying the proposed occupant load complies with 780 CMR, the state building code. No new or revised occupant load for that building, nor do we establish occupant loads independently. I advised that any request to increase the building's occupancy must be submitted through a permit application with supporting documentation, which I would then review and approve or deny. An increase in the occupancy would be required to support the proposed increase in seating. If approved, as the building's current documented occupancy is 22 persons, 16 seats, and 6 staff. Outdoor seating is not regulated under the building code and is not included in the building's total occupancy. The other one from Paula Jones, which is, 6971 Crowell Road has a pending application for increase in flow in additional seats. And I have another one here. This is for Sarah Clark. This is from the zoning board. The proposed parking spaces on the easterly side of the property do not comply with the required abutter setback of 15 feet. And parking spaces 8 to 10 do not comply with the required 20-foot road setback. The addition of these parking spaces will require the grant of a dimensional variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Relocated dumpster and proposed landscape retaining wall will require review and approval from the Historic Business District Commission. And from Shannon Neely, the CCNY LLC currently holds an annual wine and malt beverage only liquor license. Hours of service of alcohol are restricted to Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm aware that the owners will be applying for a seasonal all-alcohol beverage license in the near future. If approved, this would allow service of all alcoholic hard beverages from April 1st to November 30th, with an extension to January 15th of the following year with permission from the Select Board. Services of wine and liquor and malt beverages only would be permitted January 16th through March 31st. under local regulation, any extension of service of alcoholic beverages to outdoor seating would require a public hearing with the select board and notice to abutters within 300 feet to amend the description of licensed premises. Those were the comment letters that were submitted. Open it up for the board's comments, and I'll
Mr. Chair,
have my own.
if, with your approval, I'd just like to address a couple of the items in the staff report that you mentioned.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying about the site plan that's on file. I do think it's worth pointing out that my client hasn't done any restriping with the parking. That was all done under previous regimes at the site, so he inherited what's there. He hasn't gone out and out of the space. I think that's important clarification for the board to understand. In terms of the exterior seating, and I know there's some restaurant examples cited in the staff report. I think the distinction there is those are not table seating. You can't serve out there. It's really a convenience for customers in terms of they get a coffee, they get a pastry, they can go sit and eat it, but you can't have table service out there, and that's not what happens at the site currently. So, and again, I hate to harken back to history, but the bakery had picnic tables out there for years, and that's just the same use. People would grab a coffee or a donut, and they would sit there and eat it instead of getting right back in their car, or if they're on their bicycle, right before they ride off on their bicycle.
Well, we've had several of applications who are looking for outdoor seating, and the board's practice has been to include all of that seating as part of the counts used for parking.
Okay.
Max was a big one, the Mexican place over the Village Market, Squire, all of them have to meet that criteria. If you're adding seats to your restaurant, whether they're indoors or outdoors, and needs to be addressed as part of seating. The vehicles have to come to, even if they're just going to sit outside,
Right.
they're going to
No, I
need to get there.
understand. And our plan now,
So
as you
I-
saw, would be for those tables that you see on the plan.
I understand.
Yep.
So, but we from a site plan perspective with parking, we do include that as part of our account.
No, I understand that. I was explaining sort of the history in terms of how that used, it wasn't just things were added willy-nilly to the property.
Would any of the board members like to ask any questions of the applicant? Warren?
Thank you. I'm a fan of Pan d'Avignon in general, and I think you've done about all you could possibly try and do with this site, trying to achieve your objective. A question for you. When you have proposed that there be no outdoor service from 7 to 11 in the mornings, I think?
No table service from 7 to 11.
No table service,
It's
correct.
takeout only during those hours.
It's takeout only. Is it not possible to, order breakfast as a takeout? I mean, I've done that several times myself. Again, because you had no approval for outdoor service, so I ordered breakfast and it was brought out on a paper plate, and I had my favorite Pan d'Avignon breakfast
Right.
out on the patio. So that's takeout, quote unquote,
Right.
not table service. But it does seem to me that that type of takeout requires the same acknowledgement of a parking requirement as if you did have table service. I have made regular trips by there, and even now in the off-season, in the early morning, it's crowded. The thought of having even the 20, I think it is, indoor seating with 16 outdoor seats, with table service in the morning, with people that are having a meal, provides really no parking spaces for those that are there for takeout, which is going in to buy a baguette or a coffee and sweet rolls and so on. So parking in general is a real challenge for me on this. I think it's marginal, even if there were no takeout, to have 36 seats assigned there. But if you have 36 seats assigned in season especially, with people having a meal, and then there's no space for people that literally are there to go in and take something out, and take out, it means that there will not be sufficient parking. where people will park if they're there for 5 or 10 minutes to run in, it seems to me creates exactly the same problem that has always been there since Pan d'Avignon has been there. That people are going to want to park on Collins Road, or they're going to park in the funeral parlor, or across the street in the vacant spaces and so on. So I don't have a solution to this, but I do say that 36 approved seats and 9 parking spaces provides no spaces for those that are there for takeout. And that's a problem for me. So that's my only comment.
Charlene, I think you had your hand up?
I'm having some issues with this one, and Warren raised. I pushed it, it didn't go on. I have some concerns with this, and I think Warren explained some of my issues regarding the parking. The parking spaces out back, which are actually on the west side of the building, not the east side of the building.
Yep.
As it
Right.
said in the note from the ZBA
Yep.
folks there. Those require variance,
Right.
and I don't know what the hardship is to be able to be granted that. And also, parking spaces, certainly parking space 9, I don't believe meets the setback either. So to me, it seems like we're trying to put too much into something that just can't hold what you want to do. I really have some concerns with this. It's too big for the site that it's trying to go into. Especially based on the number of seats, which right now, based on the building commissioner's note, they're limited by that, so they're already beyond what they're supposed to have based on what the building commissioner has done for an occupancy for there, if I'm reading that letter correctly. So I'm just, I'm very concerned with this being before us. I don't feel that, based on what we have in front of us, that I can vote to approve this. And it's nothing against, the applicant, the restaurant, or anything. It's just, those 4 spaces out back. I mean, I was on my phone to look at aerial photographs, and the residence right behind on Collins Lane, number 19, is really close.
That's a residential
Yeah,
property.
it is a
that abut-
residential
that abuts,
property,
yeah.
and it's really, really close. And to have the dumpster back there behind the building at 71 Kroll Road and the 4 parking spaces, to me, is really an intrusion to that house that's been there from what I can, remember for quite a while.
Before the bakery.
Yeah, probably before the bakery. So I'm really conflicted. I'm not comfortable with what we have before us.
If I could just address a couple things, Mr. Chairman. I understand the concerns on the spaces. Again, we're trying to think outside the box a little bit with the challenging site. No matter where we put a parking space, it's going to be within a setback. And we understand it would require a variance and approval from the zoning board. There is a pretty substantial fence behind. We are proposing some additional plantings. I would point out that this is all GB3, including the residential properties behind. So I understand it's a residential property, but they're actually all located in a commercial district. So in terms of zoning compliance, we're more in compliance than residential.
I think if you take a look at it, only a sliver is on that adjacent
It's
residential
still a
property.
residential
The
use,
GIS map
a
shows the
single-family
entire
dwelling.
Yeah. Bob, you had some questions?
Well, I'm going to echo what the other two have said. I will say that my perception is that your Hyannis restaurant has an even bigger parking issue than this one in terms of the number of spaces in it, and yet you've managed to make that one work. That's the only thing I see that's in favor here, other than, you guys somehow figure out how to make this work with less parking than most people would, but it's still not ideal in any way that we go forward and do this, because we want you to be successful, and if you're going to be more successful than you are now, we know we're going to have parking issues here.
Bob Dubus?
Yeah, I want to bring up a little bit of the history. When that was a bakery, there was only two benches and tables out there so that people could grab their stuff and wait or eat it there and cook. Most of the people were on bicycles or walk-ins. Then after the bakery closed, they brought in a sandwich. They tried to make it a sandwich shop. And that did okay. But again, it didn't have enough parking spaces. And they put a patio in there, I believe, and put more tables out there. And then took all the bakery area out to make it larger. And, but still, the parking was always a troublesome with the next door neighbor. I'm not in favor of this parking on the west side, especially moving the dumpster to where it is, because there's apartments probably 25 feet away from there are apartments, and the neighbors are going to complain, and I don't see how, unless the garbage truck comes there at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, how it's going to get the dumpster out of there. So that means that all of that stuff has to stay in there all night long. It cannot be picked up. And am I right in saying that you want to stay open until 9 o'clock at night?
Yes.
Well, I don't see, this bakery or sandwich shop used to close about 5 o'clock, 4 to 5 o'clock, and it gave rest to the people around there. And I see if you're staying open with 30-some-odd seats and people in there and want to serve alcohol, which I'm sorry, I'm against it, because you know what happens when people sit outside and drink, or they sit inside and drink, and they stand out, get in their cars, and talk and yak and go. I think 9 o'clock is outrageous for this type of business to be where it is. I think that when you bought this business, you should have known that it was small, and that the expansion of it was going to be hard to do, and I don't think this is the right place for it. I wish that you would have found a different place if you wanted to make a 36 or 39-seat restaurant out of it, which is, I mean, a luncheon. It's not a restaurant, it's called a luncheon thing. And I think it's the wrong place for it, and I don't see, as it is now, I have a hard time voting for it the way it is, but I would continue it the way it is. But to expand it and have alcohol there, my personal, nothing to do with the board, my personal feeling that this is not the right place for this. It was a bakery, it did good. It was a sandwich shop, and they folded because it was some reason. And you took it over, and you've done very well at it the way it is. If you can't keep it the way it is, then I'm sorry, I think you should look for another place. That is only my opinion, too, to say that. Thank you.
Catherine, did you have any comments or questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have a lot of comments, but I think my friends and colleagues on the planning board have probably given voice to all of them. I agree with everything everyone has said. I think I love Pan d'Avignon. I pick up takeout there. I've had some wonderful brunches there. No complaints about what is there, but it's just what is being proposed, even what is being currently done there, is too much for the site. Even if the Zoning Board of Appeals granted the variances for the parking spaces and the dumpster in the back, I will not approve those parking spaces or that dumpster in the back there. I don't know how you plan to get in and out of them. So I won't approve that. I think also it would have to be carefully monitored. The table plan that was in the packet anyway showed 46 seats total, I understand that's been revised so that what you're proposing is 4 tables outside with 4 seats and then 20 seats inside plus 6 employees. You'd have to somehow monitor the takeout people so the takeout people didn't also have seating outside. I mean, then we're kind of really exploding everything. So unfortunately, I just need to say I agree with Charlene's concerns, Warren's concerns, Bob Dubus' concerns, and as it stands right now, I could not approve this site plan as proposed.
Let me just follow up with some of my comments. Because so many of the requests that you have in here fall outside what is allowed by zoning, in my view, unless the zoning board is going to grant a variance for that, this site would never move forward the way it is. It requires a setback for the parking and a buffer for the, to the adjacent residential area. I think that's going to be a very steep hill to climb and get approval on it. I don't support stacking cars. We've never supported stacking cars on a site. That is not something that allows for circulation, that adequate circulation and for safety purposes. The 9th spot that's shown on the plan there is blocking where the delivery is. That's the only way that delivery occurs at the restaurant. You call for delivery being between 8 o'clock and 2 o'clock, 8 delivery companies delivered during that time. Now, how do you do that when you have that parking spot filled with vehicles? You can't get in or out. Where do you park your truck in order to, or vehicle that's loading or unloading? It's parked in a private way, blocking traffic. The dumpster was brought up by several people here. And it says 5 to 7 o'clock in the morning is going to be a pickup. That's way in the back. Guess what happens? You have a dump truck, a garbage truck, which is backing up with the beeper alarm. That is going to really bother the adjacent abutters and neighbors, apparently the apartment and the single-family residential. I think that's a steep hill to climb on all of these points of affecting the abutters. I think if this is something that you're willing to pursue, I think you should be getting sign off from the ZBA first before you come back to us, because I don't think I could support the application as it is, because I just don't see it possible for you to get a sign off for the major impacts. If the ZBA signs off on that and you come back, and then maybe we can revisit it, but there's just too many challenges on this site, and most of the things that the other board members have indicated I also support. This is, up to you. You can withdraw your application. You can ask us to go ahead and do a vote on this.
We would ask to withdraw without prejudice, please.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we allow for the withdrawal without prejudice of this application.
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Warren?
I approve.
Bob?
Approve.
Charlene?
Approve.
Bob?
I approve.
Catherine?
I approve.
And Artsper, I approve.
Thank you for your time. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Okay, so a couple things on long-range planning. I think you got in your packet last week the draft guidelines on the seasonal communities. One of the things that was passed as part of law is the, yes, it did,
They were in our packet?
last week.
I don't remember that.
Not the seasonal community.
Yeah. Wasn't it seasonal communities regulations?
No, we had your,
No. Yeah, we had your stormwater.
Okay, well, we'll have to get you that.
Well, you can give us the 5 points.
What I will say is that part of the law was to really address the accessory dwelling unit, okay? Now, what the community development has been doing, along with our town council, is they've drafted up a bylaw that complies with the state law. Their recommendation is going to be to withdraw, to replace what we have right now with the draft one. I'd like to put that on the agenda for our next meeting in January, which is the 12th of January. I believe that's the only thing that'll be on the agenda for that. Is that right?
That is correct.
So it may take us some time to go through that, and I'd like to go through it. But again, the whole idea is it's pretty much written to reflect what the whole law, what the law says. Okay. The other thing, and I did look at the regulations. As a matter of fact, one of your comments in your last week, it's in the minutes, you were mentioning that there could be some edits or some effect to our West Chatham Neighborhood Center based on the short-term rental and the owner occupancy piece. And there are some components in here associated with the regulations. I could have sworn that this was delivered to you. I apologize for that. So it does get into, and I'll read the topics. Year-round housing trust funds, preference for seasonal, community essential public employees, artist housing, year-round housing occupancy restrictions, and also has a part of it in here for tiny lots and tiny homes, tiny house on a year-round housing unit. I think the big thing that could affect us is potentially the short-term rental. And let me see if I can pull it up here. And the housing occupancy restrictions. Now, that might be something that we'd want to adjust within our bylaw before we advance it. Also, the other criteria that they had in here of housing preferences for seasonal community essential public employees. Is that something that we'd want to encourage or even adopt as part of the West Chatham Neighborhood Center? Since we're looking at a different type of housing in that area, this might be an area to include it. Here's a suggestion on this. I'm willing to listen to all. I originally thought that we would have an outreach with the public on this. When I spoke with Christine, Gloria, and Katie last week, they recommended that they do a workshop with us about the seasonal community guidelines that are here. And I can schedule that for our second meeting in January, which would be the 26th. Workshop at 4 o'clock, and we can conduct our business at 5. Gloria could be here, and she could give us a walkthrough breather on this, how it could be we could adjust some of the bylaw provisions in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center, if that's something that we would want to do. But I think that I don't have all the background in this at all, and I think Gloria is much more informed of it than I am, and she would be willing to come and speak to us and walk us through it, though. Warren?
I think that's a great idea. What I was hoping to see is our proposed draft that was turned down, amended to the minimum extent required to conform to the seasonal communities law. 95% of what we had drafted, I think, still applies, but certain changes would need to be made.
Right.
And there are a couple of things that would now be permitted relating to short-term rentals, for example,
Right.
that we held back on to ensure that our draft would pass muster with the Attorney General's office.
Right.
That would allow us to amend our draft potentially to make the seasonal year-round housing requirements and restriction on short-term rentals more severe than we had actually gone forward with, which would be exactly what we had intended. There are undoubtedly several areas that we never addressed at all in our draft, such as preference for town employees and so on. Certain types of the ancillary housing units, for example. We did in fact provide some flexibility for the tiny houses, and I think that might be able to remain as drafted or would need to be tweaked. But I think, we've got 95% of what I would want to take back to the voters and explain exactly why it makes all the sense in the world to get them to approve it. And I think that to go back and start drafting from scratch with the, seasonal community aspect in mind is not where I would want to go. I would want to
I wasn't
have
thinking
somebody
that-
take our draft and tweak it with
No.
what has to change.
Right.
And then highlight the few things which could change if
Right.
we chose to do that.
Right.
And then have the discussion you are proposing and the working session, I guess you might call it, with the experts as to what else we would collectively wish to modify in terms of our draft.
No, I'm not suggesting that we have to redraft the whole piece. I think that there's some adjustments that we do on this. I think we take some of the content. I don't have enough of a background and understanding of this about how this should be formulated. I think Gloria would be a better candidate to help us with that. I mean, this has been her baby all along. So with my short discussion that I had with her last week, she sort of convinced me that this would be a good way to go. I would hate to go forward with this and then pass it, and then all of a sudden find that we should make a modification to this next year, and that wouldn't be the way I would want to go. So that's the only reason why this was a good suggestion on their part, and I was trying to adopt it as best I could. But I got her commitment to actually do a workshop with this, though.
But if memory serves,
Yeah.
we have a timeline here which is extraordinarily tight if we're going to be
Yeah.
amending the draft to take it forward for town meeting.
Let's see how much of it would be affected after we get through with it. Yeah, it could be small. Bob?
So next one, we're just going to discuss the ADU.
ADU only, yeah. And I think it's going to take us the meeting to go through it all.
Could we get a 15-minute going through everything before we just talk about the ADU? It just seems to me there are too many things that are overlapping. Oh, well, we did the ADU and now all of a sudden we didn't talk about small properties. And, it just seems to me there's this new requirement that none of us know anything about. It affects ADU, it affects the West Chatham. I don't want to start talking about any of them until I get a background. So it would be better for me
Okay.
if the briefing was first, and then we talked about ADU in the first one, and then West Chatham in the second.
Okay. All right.
So when we talked, I get what you're saying, and I will ask that question within the next couple of days. But as it stands right now, Gloria had offered to come to the meeting on the 26th to talk about the seasonal communities piece of it. We still don't have the complete final bylaw from the state. We have a draft that's pretty far along, and it looks like that's going to be it. In the meantime, the purpose of bringing the ADU piece forward is because right now we're totally following the state that has overridden our ADU bylaw that is here in town. We have worked with town council on that piece of it. We can do that totally separate from the other one, so that's why we're trying to bring that one forward to you on the 12th. we can have the initial discussions, and then we would have the public hearings in February sometime for that. Realistically, I would say that the West Chatham Neighborhood Center is not going to be on this town meeting. You won't make the timeline for it. If you bring it exactly as it was presented last year without any changes at all, realistically, it's probably not going to pass. There hasn't, we don't have enough guidance just yet on how to move that forward. We need to do the ADU piece of it, so you don't have to keep following the state guidance exactly as it is, because that's made for every town, every city in town. It's not made specifically for you. So that's why it's so important we do the ADU one first. I understand what you're asking. I will try to see if I can get some basic, even if I get a write-up from Gloria about it, that we could start your meeting with on the 12th. And then she will come on the 26th to give you additional guidance on that, so we can move West Chatham ahead. But realistically, that is not going to be on this town meeting agenda.
What I'll try and do with working with Gloria and the community development staff is between now and then, I'll go through and try to get this into a form that focuses us on the issues that we have concerns with for the meeting on the 26th. I mean, if there's things that are outside of that, like the tiny houses and tiny lots, that may not be anything that's relevant that would affect the West Chatham Neighborhood Center. I'll try to get things focused the right way for that meeting, so I'll try to do that with some prep meetings with Gloria. Charlene?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Bob? Yeah. Catherine, you have any questions or comments about my suggestion?
No, I think it's all good. I would like to just clarify, forgive me if we've already discussed this, but when we say now that we've got the draft, which is almost a final draft, of the seasonal community law, this is the draft of the law at the state level, is that correct? Or is this?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
And
then what the
ADU
process-
one that we're bringing forward is our draft that we've been working on with town council. So what I will do is
Okay.
I will send that one out the very beginning of January, so you have a little bit extra time, and I'll send along with it the draft of the seasonal communities that we have from the state. So you can all use those two at least to look at that first piece.
Okay, so the draft law from the state, it's not law yet. Is that correct? It's
Say
a
that again.
draft.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The seasonal community draft law is not law yet, but it's possibly going to become law at the level of the state. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And then
so what-
ultimately,
I thought it was already a law. These are the regulations.
These are regulations.
I'm
that's
sorry,
right.
okay,
These,
yes, I'm
okay,
sorry.
so it
Regulation.
is the law. These are the regulations. So I'm just wanting to get clear what our process is. Our process is now to take the West Chatham proposed bylaw amendment and integrate whatever we need to from the proposed changes in the regulations
Yeah.
of the state law regarding seasonal communities. Is that correct?
That summarizes it very well, Catherine.
Okay, so because last meeting, as I recall, and Frank was one of the proponents, and I'm just saying this to be clear, I don't recall, I think there was a kind of consensus of the board, although not a formal consensus, that we would hold on making any changes in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center bylaw and just put it through as it was put through last time. But now we're going to change that direction and say that we are going to consider what changes do we need to make in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center proposed bylaw amendment based on the fact that we now have the draft regulations for the seasonal communities law at the state level. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think the important thing on this is many of the, and if not most of the components in the seasonal community regulations have to do with the residential side of piece. And that was the one
Okay.
that we were challenged with in getting to where we are today on it. So I think that since that's such a significant part of the bylaw, I think it would be important to make sure that we're not doing something on what was in the original draft with what is stated in here. And I welcome the board, once we get this to them, to actually take a look at this and see where they see some of the issues are. And I'll ask Gloria to be specific about where she would make recommendations on how it would be adjusted if it needs to be adjusted.
Okay, so basically, so I'm just being clear that we're changing our strategy here, which is, I agree with the change, that we're going to look at the regulation, the draft regulations. What does the state need to do to make those draft regulations the regulations? Is there a process that has to be gone through at
Well,
the
we were
state
supposed to be
level?
getting the finalized regulations by the end of the fall, so, they're
Okay.
still not approved at their level. And maybe you won't have to make any changes, but you have to look at your West Chatham bylaw with those things in place, since the town voted for seasonal communities designation.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So we're changing, so we'll take a look at it. But changing that strategy means, and I think Christine is right, that we probably will not be able to bring West Chatham Neighborhood Center proposed bylaw amendment before annual town meeting again for 2026.
That is
We will
correct.
probably need, we will probably need to wait till 2027. I just want to be real here, so we know what we're doing.
Well,
I mean, I agree with Christine that
yeah.
that's what it probably means.
I guess the only thing I could suggest is let's take this meeting at a time. I'm hopeful that after we meet on the 12th, go through the ADU bylaw, we can advance that, okay? We'll see what happens when we get information, the specific stuff on how these regulations, the residential side of it might be adjusted. And I'm looking for help from Gloria and the community development staff to make recommendations on what those might be. And then
Yeah.
we can make the adjustments then after that occurs. But I think we have to have our discussion back and forth to understand what they are first before we say, yeah, let's go with this, or
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, no, I agree, Mr. Chair, but I just, it might mean that we will need to make some changes to West Chatham Neighborhood Center, and that we may need to delay bringing it
Yep.
to annual town meeting with those changes to 2027. So, but I think that if we do need to make changes, we should make them, and that is a better course of action.
Okay. Warren,
Okay.
you have more
Well,
comments?
first off, I think changes that are needed to comply with the law townwide are priority one.
Yep, right.
Has to be done, ADUs in particular. However, if I take the perspective of looking backwards and saying, look, we almost got our bylaw approved last year. We should have had it approved. We didn't explain why it was there, and we didn't adequately address all of the misinformation that was put forward by those opposed to it. If it had been approved, then it would have to be amended to comply with the new law. And we would be including that bylaw along with all of the other zoning bylaw in town,
Well, probably with separate articles though, right?
perhaps with separate article, but it would need to be amended. It would seem to me that that has to go forward, but it would seem to me we ought to be going right back to the voters with the West Chatham Neighborhood draft bylaw, perhaps with one or two tweaks, like strengthening the year-round housing requirement and/or restrictions on short-term rentals, period. And with those changes, which could be done very easily, anything else that needed to be amended in there to comply with the law would be done by virtue of the bylaw being adopted townwide. It doesn't seem to me we would need to necessarily separately address the new seasonal community bylaw, or excuse me, the ADU aspect of the townwide bylaw change separately from that is in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center. If there were a conflict, well, clearly the townwide bylaw would govern, right?
I would prefer we wait to find out what is in
Yeah.
the bylaw. before we
I would agree
yeah.
too, but what I'm hearing is, what we're talking about is 2027 at the earliest that we could get a West Chatham Neighborhood Center bylaw, in
And
which
that may
case,
very well happen. I think until we hear from Gloria and we see the language,
Right.
we honestly don't know what needs to or should get changed in the West Chatham
Right.
bylaw. I would hate to bring it forward this year and then have to bring it back in a year to do all kinds of amendments to it. People won't be happy with that.
Right.
I'd actually be happier with going forward with the West Chatham Neighborhood bylaw, perhaps tweaked with the way we think it might be best, and
But-
then
but-
going forward a year later with the
I believe I
townwide
have the
bylaw.
table, excuse me, Warren.
Yeah,
For the next meeting, I
Yep.
know you're going to get us the draft ADU bylaw, which is totally separate from the whole seasonal thing.
correct.
We're talking apples and bananas here, not even the same shape. So if we can, you're going to provide us with that. You're also going to provide us with the draft regulations thus far for the seasonal communities.
Yep.
Can you also send us the latest and greatest draft of the West Chatham bylaw, just so we have that? So, because I'll start looking at it and see where I think changes should be made. And then the presentation that we'll have the 26th, I think.
26th.
Of January, I think will be very informative.
Yep.
If we still don't have the final regulations, we really can't move forward with changes
Yeah.
to the West Chatham bylaw.
Yeah.
It would, in my opinion, it just would be not foolish, but just not, not smart planning if we try to do it.
And I want to just put a little reality into this with the board members. If you recall, we did a lot of edits before we finalized it for last year's town meeting. I just want to let you know, little tweaks made work. Maybe not for the board members, but I spent a lot of time working with staff, and then it went through town council review. I bet you in 2 weeks, I had town council review 4 versions of that. So I was shocked I was able to get turnarounds. So even little tweaks, it goes through a process that we have to do here, and I would not want to advance something without town council's giving it to go
Right.
over. So the sequence would still need to be followed. So if we make adjustments, we make the changes we think are right. We'll work with Gloria and the staff about making those adjustments, but then I would like town council to actually do a review on it, just to make sure that there isn't any flags that we have. A lot of times we ask for things that may not be, in compliance with the law, and I just want to make sure that we're not doing those hiccups.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Catherine, go ahead.
so I have a question, and maybe, I'm just trying to think if there's any way to expedite the process. And I'm just wondering whether on the meeting for the 26th, if we could have the draft or perhaps even the final regulations for the state law. And as Charlene suggested, the
No,
latest version
We'll have
of-
those sooner, Catherine.
No,
But the
okay.
final ones aren't
But
done
please
yet,
let me-
that's the
The final
problem.
isn't done yet. It's
Yeah.
not.
But everybody, can you please let me finish? I have the floor.
I'm sorry.
That's.
Go ahead,
Let
Catherine.
me finish. So could we might get the final ones by that time. Christine just said we were supposed to have them a couple of months ago. So we'll need the draft or hopefully the final ones. And then, as Charlene suggested, the version of the West Chatham Neighborhood Center that was brought to annual town meeting 2025, would it be possible for staff to also create a draft of what they feel, in their professional opinion, should be any tweaks or edits made to the West Chatham Neighborhood Center bylaw based on the current regulations of the state law for seasonal communities? That might expedite our process. So I'm going to ask that question of Christine, if that would be possible, and it could expedite our process. That's all I'm suggesting.
Christine.
No, I'm Charlene.
Oh, Charlene, that's right. I'm
But
sorry.
if I understand what Catherine is asking for, but as somebody who's been in Christine's position for a long time previously, it's a waste of her time and staff's time, in my opinion, to write something or draft something that may be. It takes a lot of concentration and it just, I would rather have staff working on other things for us, like the rules and regulations we've been talking about, until we have a solid knowledge of what the regulations are going to be for the seasonal communities. I would hate for staff to use their time unwisely. And to speculate on what may be is, I may win the lottery tonight and you'll never see me again. I don't think that's going to happen. But, I would rather have their time spent more wisely on things we know about, not what may be.
No, Charlene, I
Okay.
would agree with you, but it sounds as if staff time is already being spent to draft a townwide bylaw based on what we think the regulations will require.
No,
No,
not at all.
no.
Not at all.
Oh, then I misunderstood.
No,
No, I would agree with.
accessory
I would
dwelling
agree with
unit
that.
only. That's the only thing that has been worked on with community development staff.
I would only hope that there would be some consideration for us going forward as soon as we get ADU squared away, to not wait another 12 months in order to get the West Chatham Neighborhood Center in front of the voters again with only a few tweaks that are needed to comply with the new law.
Well, from what I understand, there were two parts to the law. That was the seasonal community piece plus the ADU piece. And they're somewhat independent of each other. The ADU regulations have been finalized, correct? That's the reason why all of that work has been done on that bylaw with town council. That's why it's ready, all right? The other regulations are not finalized yet, and that's why we're in the process of that. And I think, Charlene, I agree with you. I think we have not given guidance about what things we should focus on that. I would like to see what 2, 3, 4 things that are in here that are important. We usually are very opinionated on this, and I think we'll give our opinion about what things to focus on and what to work on. Now, that's going to be probably a little bit of my work that I'll go and do with Christine and anybody else with town council to try to reformulate what we have there and bring it back for discussion and review by the board members. That's what I'm looking forward to doing. It's going to keep marching along. I'm not suggesting we don't march along. I think that this is an important element to include, though. If we voted on this as a community for seasonal communities, I think we need to include components of it that make sense for us here. Catherine, anything else?
Yeah, thanks, Charlene and Mr. Chair. I agree with what you've said. I was just trying to see if there was some way we did not need to sacrifice bringing West Chatham back to annual town meeting in 2026. I'm going to ask again, Christine, the question. We have the draft that we think is the final draft of the regulations for the state law on seasonal communities. But what, do we feel it's 100% sure that we will get the final statement of the regulations? Because then how does the board feel if say it just stays in this state, that it's a draft of the regulations for the state law, and we don't bring West Chatham back before annual town meeting in 2026, and we've never received the final regulations from the state. So that's another possibility, a possible scenario, and I think that's a scenario we want to avoid. But I'm asking the question, I'm asking Christine what she thinks the likelihood
Well, I think
of us not-
realistically, if
yeah.
you look at the history in town here, the last few things that have been brought forward too quickly a second time have not ended very well. There are examples of that at town meeting,
Okay.
right? Where there have been, where they
Okay.
have failed miserably. So I want to make sure we don't set you up to do that. I know you've all been working on this for a number of years, but that is one of my main concerns. I would also say, we're
Okay.
totally at the mercy of the state. They have to finish the seasonal communities piece. The town has already accepted that designation, so we're gonna be moving, with that. We're taking forward the things that we can take forward. The other thing is you have two very large projects that are, going through review processes at the ZBA right now, which are going to play into all of this. And until people know exactly how that all works out and things, they're gonna be a little bit hesitant to move ahead with some of these other things. It might change some of the things within your plan, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think it's advantageous for you to move forward at this time. There's too many unknowns. I know that you're all
Okay.
very anxious at this point to move it forward, but I would proceed with caution.
Okay,
And,
okay.
all right.
All points well
Bob,
taken,
Really
thank
want to go
you.
home, but
Yep.
I just want to emphasize that nothing we do is easy.
Yeah.
But, and the idea that we should pick off a little piece of this because we can do it now without considering the global interactions
Yeah.
between this one and the seasonal seems to me to be a little short-sighted. I guarantee you, there are going to be things in that seasonal regulation that will affect how we make decisions about the ADU. And so I just don't want to run through one and say, oh, we got to get that one
Yeah.
done.
Well, so what I would say to you is if, as we look at it, you can say, at the next meeting, you can say, I think, there are too many things, because you'll have both pieces
No,
to
that's,
move
the
forward
only
with
thing I'm
it.
saying is,
Yep, yep.
you got to give us the overview of both of
Yep.
them before we start talking about the one. Don't run the
Okay.
one through us.
Okay.
Because they're going to interact
We-
with each other.
And if I might, currently our ADU bylaw is not in compliance with state law.
That's correct.
So we need to correct it.
That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, with that.
Thank you.
All right, we ready to close out our meeting tonight? then?
Ho, 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 and I move that we adjourn.
minute.
Oh, wait.
What do I have here? To planning board. Am I supposed to read this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. To the planning board, thank you for all that you do for our town. Happy holidays, Troop 71 Boy Scouts. This bayberry candle comes from a friend. Son on New Year's Eve, burn it down to the end. For a bayberry candle burned down to the socket will bring joy to the heart and gold to the pocket.
So this came from, in correspondence, it came from Thad Eldridge, so you're each supposed to take one, and now you can close that meeting.
Oh, sweet.
I just would like to take a moment to remember Bob Duncanson.
Oh, absolutely.
He was quite the town asset, and it's really a shock. So, if we could take a minute.
Wow, I'm,
You didn't know.
Didn't know.
Okay, well, can I have a
Move to
motion?
adjourn.
Second,
I'll do a roll call vote. Warren?
Approve.
Bob?
approve.
Charlene?
approve.
Bob?
Approve.
And Catherine?
Yes, I approve.
And Art Spru, I approve, and the time is 8:20 PM. excuse me, 6:20 PM.